Here in France, a cabinet meeting devoted to drug trafficking and organized crime. This after the nationwide shock over the murder of the younger brother of a Marseille militant against organized crime, Amine Kessaci, whose funeral took place today earlier in the Mediterranean port city. Eliza Herbert has more.
France plans to step up its war on drugs. Cabinet ministers convened on Tuesday after Amine Kessaci, the brother of prominent anti-drug campaigner Amine Kessaci, was shot dead in Marseille last week. His death has marked a turning point, according to the country's interior minister.
What's
certain is that most of the participants collectively agreed that this was clearly not a classic settling of scores, as is unfortunately often the case in the fight against drug trafficking, but rather a crime of intimidation.
Marseille has long experienced drug-related crimes and turf wars, but residents are now fearful the violence has become more extreme.
I can't talk because I have teenagers. I'm scared. If I talk, that's it, it's over. They could kill my children or me.
Even when you've lived in precarious conditions, you've not experienced this level of violence.
If Amine Kessaci's murder was meant as a warning to silence anti-drug campaigners, then it could be having its intended consequence, according to the family's lawyer.
There are people indeed among the activists who, since Mehdi's death, are saying, we're stopping. They're throwing in the towel. They're not taking any more risks. I also think that people faced with this horror will, on the contrary, get involved.
Across France, 4 people have been killed in narco-trafficking-related shootings in less than a month. And experts say drug traffickers are slowly trying to gain more territorial control. President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday urged his team of ministers to focus on international cooperation and better intercepting drugs entering the country.
Emmanuel Macron will be headed to Marseille, he says, next month. For more, let's cross to the southern port city. And journalist Richard Assheton, thank you for being with us here on France 24. We can add to those statistics since the funeral this morning of Amine Kessaci, the shooting death of a man aged between 45 and 50 in those working-class northern neighborhoods of Marseille. It's a state of shock where you are. It's a state of shock across the country over this shooting.
Absolutely a state of shock. As you say, the fact that the President Emmanuel Macron has convened this meeting this afternoon just gives you a sense of the import of this issue here. I mean, there's so much going on in France, as we know, in politics and outside, but this is a story and a problem that won't go away for the government. And it's just a steady stream of tragic stories. There was another story just recently in Grenoble, a 12-year-old injured in a shooting there. He was thought to be close by. Yes, the words coming out of the Élysée and this meeting this afternoon suggest that as we head into elections and going forward in the next couple of years, this is going to really become a key issue, and polls suggest that French people are very worried about it. As I say, there's so many other things that they are worried about at the moment. But people just feel it in their everyday lives. If you go to some of these neighborhoods in the northern part of Marseille, there's no escaping it, really. People are feeling disillusioned. The jobs market is not good. And in some of these deprived areas, it is simply a case of living day to day for some people. And they quite easily get caught up in this violence, as we've seen horrifically this week.
And the annual meeting of the Association of Mayors taking place this Tuesday ahead of those municipal elections that you refer to next March. And mayors saying that 8 out of 10 cities in France have a drugs problem. In Marseille, this particular case, you have this activist, Amine Kessaci. He's now lost 2 of his brothers. And this most recent killing clearly looks like a calling card to intimidate those who want to speak out against traffickers.
Absolutely. This young man, Amine Kessaci, is a really extraordinary guy. He was only 17 when he set up a charity which was basically a sort of talking shop in order for him to raise awareness of these issues. Yes, as you say, he already lost his older brother, Brahim, who was shot, murdered in 2020. Now he loses his other brother, and the Marseille prosecutor suggesting, as your report reflected, that this is a real turning point. This suggests that the gangs are bold enough now to target those who dare to stand up to them, and not just target them, but to target their family members. Amine has been living under police protection for a while. He hasn't said anything publicly since the killing of his second brother. And what's more, there are reports that other activists in the city and elsewhere in France are perhaps considering themselves stopping talking publicly. One guy was quoted in one of the French papers this afternoon saying, "I'm not a kamikaze bomber. I'm not prepared to commit suicide by speaking out publicly." He was quoted anonymously, and it's a real menacing hush that has descended in some ways on Marseille. But as you say, this is a national issue. There is no large town in France, and even smaller town, that is not impacted by this. Sébastien Lecornu, the Prime Minister, suggests that the country needs to treat this issue as it has treated terrorism. He calls for national unity. The previous Interior Minister, Bruno Retailleau, was fond of using language around Mexicanization, as he called it, suggesting that France was becoming more and more of a cartel state. The new government seems less inclined to use this language, but it's clear that there is a relatively cross-party agreement that France must find a solution to this issue.
Richard Assheton, so many thanks for joining us here on France 24. Stay with us. There's much more to come, more news, plus the day's business and sports.